Hey guys, how you doing? Today we're going to go through the thing that almost everybody wants to know the most, which is how are you going to tax efficiently draw down your investments in retirement? When are you going to take CPP? When are you going to take OAS? And how is all of that going to work together? So I'm going to go through an example, show you some numbers in the software, and show you this great new program that we have. Now, when I first started getting into sort of the retirement space, which seems to be what happens with YouTube, is because the only people that have the time to actually listen to me talk for this long are people that are actually retired and have a lot of time on their hands. And that's when we started becoming retirement experts, which most of the planners online seem to be. We're all kind of talking about the same things. And what I've been waiting for a really long time is, can we find a software that's actually going to do this for us? It didn't exist before. It wasn't like there was a class that we could take that says, this is how you're going to do it. And one of the things that I was always trying to do, and I've watched Adam's videos before on how he tries to time things with investments and doing things in retirement, is to average out your tax rate over time. But now we have this new software program that's sort of breaking what I thought was the right way to do it, where in some cases I might have been like, I think that in that case there's a good case for an RSP meltdown, delaying CPP till 70, whatever, averaging the tax rates over time. However, that's not always the case. So just by, sometimes this is happening differently than I would have expected based on the software, which our new software program is running, a million different scenarios next to each other, using AI to actually say, based on the assumptions that we've put into this plan, and based on the things that you want and the age that you want to optimize this for, this is your ideal drawdown strategy. And sometimes it's not quite the way I think. And sometimes it's not doing an RSP meltdown in the early years and waiting for later. So, it's definitely something that I'm really happy with. But it's actually making some conversations more difficult because people are coming to us with expectations for wanting to do it one way or the other because that was just the way that they thought. And then I'm saying, well, this is actually showing us completely different results. And another thing that I'm going to point out is that in almost every single case, it's showing us that the ideal time to take CPP and OAS is usually around the 67 to 68 age, which sort of starts to make sense if you look at like some of the graphs that Chad and I have done on our CPP videos, like the one where I did CPP and how inflation affects it. It's showing, 67, 68 to be a really solid move in there, where yes, if you live to a ripe old age of 95, maybe that wasn't the perfect strategy. However, it's a really good balance in there. So I think that makes a lot of sense. So now what I'm going to do is, well, actually first I'm going to tell you about this client. I got super lucky, and Jennifer Aniston has come to K4 and she says, you know what, Kent, I want to do a financial plan with you. And I was like, absolutely fantastic. Thought she was going to be rich. Turns out it was a different Jennifer Aniston, doesn't quite have as much money as I would have expected. So here's her situation. She is just about to turn 65. She wants to retire right at 65. Her goal for retirement is to have $4,500 after tax from 65 until 75. And then she's going to drop that income down to $3,700 after tax from 75 until her projected life expectancy of 90. The assets that Jennifer has, which I was surprised about, a lot lower than I expected. Her RSP has 300,000 in it. She has a LIRA with $75,000 in it, a non-registered account with 150,000, a TFSA with 100,000, and a fully paid off house worth 450,000, which will just be added to the estate or could be used, you know, to downsize or sell and rent later if she came into some economic troubles. I'm also going to do a video on just teaching people about reverse mortgages in the near future. Not that we generally recommend them. I've obviously never sold one. I can't do that anyway. It's just that it might become a lot more common in the future. She's going to get 90% of CPP, full OAS. Her projected rate of return in the assumptions tab is 4% with all of the accounts right all the way through, inflation of 2.5%. And what we're going to do is, she said, you know, I think I'm going to live till 90, but I want to optimize this plan at the age of 85. Okay, so now I'm going to pull up the screen, and just without doing anything, all I did was put the numbers into the software here, and you can see that she's doing pretty well, but there is a deficiency. This red is showing a deficiency at the age of 89 and 90, so she's going to have to start eating crackers and Ichiban at 85 and 90. And then if we look at the retirement options page, it's showing, like I said, that she's a little bit short. So she can attain a retirement lifestyle of $1,100 a year less than she wants. So $52,900. It wants her to work another year, but she told me absolutely not. I hate my job. And I was like, okay, well, let's find a way to make this work. If her rate of return is 4.37 instead of 4, then this plan will work. Or if she just somehow came into 24,600 of extra money. Now, the thing about this is, I don't love this plan because this assumes everything needs to go almost perfectly in order for her to achieve this, which is a little bit stressful. You know, I don't really love that, but she's not working anymore. What are we going to do? We're going to try and optimize this to make this work better. So what I've done here is just done another optimal plan. I haven't done anything here. We haven't done any planning saying we're going to split the RIF. All we're doing is we are optimizing when to take CPP and OAS and how to do the drawdown, and I'll show you in a second. So, you know, some people might have said, well, okay, let's do an RSP meltdown with her 300,000 in the RSP until she's 70. Then we'll have all of the remaining money left. We'll get more CPP and OAS. But turns out it's not going to work exactly like that. And you can see here now that it actually works. There is no deficiencies at the end of her life when she gets to 90 years old. She also has an increase. She can now spend 400 more per year than her goal, which is 1,500 more a year indexed to inflation rather than her base plan. So that's actually a significant amount of money, even though it looks like only a little bit of money. 1,500 indexed to inflation for 25 years is quite a bit of time. And she needs to get only a 3.87% rate of return in order to make this happen. So this is great news for Jennifer, just with using this. So I'm happy about this so far. So this is kind of where I'm going in, and I'm going to show you a little bit of this. We've already done it. So this is showing that the overall improvement is 9%, or an extra $94,000 in her pocket over her retirement, just because we've optimized this strategy. And where it says here is, is the main thing. Well, not the main thing, but yeah, it wants her to start both CPP and OAS at 68 years old. And what are we going to do with the money until then? But first, I want to look at this graph because this one is quite interesting. It shows how big of a difference it is. So this blue line on the bottom is her taking the RSP first. And you can see in every scenario, her taking the RSP worst or first is actually not the right option. The taking the non-reg and TFSA first is a little bit better until she gets to about 75 years old where that crossover point happens. And then the optimal strategy wins from 75 on. So basically the risk here in a lot of these cases is saying, okay, well, depending on how these lines look and where that crossover point is like, you're taking a risk by doing it until you reach this age, and then if you reach this age, then this was the optimal strategy. But in this case, they're both really close, even until the crossover point. So I think the optimal strategy is the way to go. And now it's just going to be easier for you to see when I do like the details and it shows it. I'm just going to bring up the next page so we can have a look at it. So here is just a chart of the income that's coming in. And if you had a pension, then it wouldn't show it in the details here, but you know, we can certainly add it in. This is just showing the assets that you're choosing from. And so right here, she's just taken her locked in and gone all the way and used that as the pension that, you know, generally you're going to do with the lira. In her case, we could have said, let's unlock 50% of that and put 50% of that lira into your RSP, which would just change the RSP numbers, give her a little bit more flexibility. I do basically subscribe to the idea that you should unlock your lira if you can and move it into the RSP because it gives you more options in retirement. Now you can see here that it doesn't want her to start CPP or OAS until 68. And she's doing a blended withdrawal strategy using the RSPs and the non-registered in those first 3 years, which will keep her taxes very low. This will pretty much keep her taxes to zero in the first 3 years. And then something that I found interesting was, okay, now she's stopping with the non-reg. Whatever's left in there can just continue to grow or move into the TFSA every year. And it looks to me like until she gets to that age of 75 where her income drops, they want her to take quite a bit of money out of the TFSA and less out of the RSP until she actually has to start riffing at 71 or 72, and then she doesn't have a choice as to how much money she's actually taking out of there. So this is obviously a rough guide, right? Like I've said a million times before, these things change, right? Life happens, gets in the way. The market changes significantly. You come into some money, you have a huge unexpected bill, there's a health-related issue, anything like that can change this on a dime. We're making assumptions for 25 years when we don't know what's going to happen in the next year, let alone the next 25 years. So this could certainly change over time. However, if we're following something like this, then something that I might say to Jennifer here is like, okay, well, we've got to take about 60,000 out of your RSP in the next 3 years. And it looks like we've got to take about 120 out of your non-registered account in the next 3 years. So my suggestion might be, let's put those into something safe that is generating a good amount of interest, because the interest rates are favorable right now. So you could get yourself into a GIC ladder, for example, with that 120 and the 60, or a high interest ETF right now, which allows for a little bit more flexibility. That way we're not risking so much of the remainder of our money, which is mostly the RSP, where at least we have some time to recover till we have to start making these larger withdrawals in her early 70s. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. I'm going to come up with some more examples, show you some couples and different things. I'm telling you, a lot of the results for me have been surprising. And I used to take a lot of time, building my own sort of spreadsheets and saying, okay, well, this is how I'm going to do it to balance out the tax over time, because I believe that mathematically is a pretty good strategy. It turns out that what I think is happening a lot of the time is that we forget how powerful the tax deferred growth in the RSP is. So when we're wanting to maybe do a harder meltdown in the beginning, well, then we're losing out so much on that tax deferred growth because we're worried so much about, paying this big estate tax bill at the end of the day. But there are ways I would prefer to approach that, rather than just saying, let's pay so much more now, rather than so that we don't have to give it to the government later. Well, if we can delay paying the government, it should actually work out. So anyway, I hope that you learned something. Obviously, if you did, please reach out. We'd love to have you like and subscribe and comment on the videos. Hopefully we can hit 20,000 subscribers one of these days. And if you'd like to run a decumulation plan with us, we'd love to do it with you. Reach out. We can talk about your options, and hopefully we can help you go from there. Cheers, and thanks again for watching.